Railroad locomotives are usually powered by steam, diesel, or electric power. But in the 1960s, the New York Central Railroad had other ideas. Throughout the decade, passenger rail travel in America had been steadily declining. The convenience of cars and new highway networks, along with the faster speeds of airlines, were two major factors in the decline. In 1966, Railroad President Alfred E. Perlman wanted a train to reach 200 miles per hour in an attempt to re-attract passengers. This job was handed to research team lead Don Wetzel. He was to research potential high-speed train routes, determine if existing infrastructure could support it, and develop a high-speed train of some kind. Wetzel was given only 30 days to figure it all out.
Hurry up, will you?
Thus, the New York Central would build a high-speed train, on the cheap. Current diesel locomotives wouldn't be able to reach high speeds, and stringing up overhead wires for faster electric locomotives would be costly. So, oddly enough, a Bud Rail diesel car would be the basis. It was chosen as it would be easy to modify. Using RDC-3 number M497, a pair of government surplus General Electric J4719 jet engines were strapped to the top for propulsion. The jet engines were originally going to be at the rear, but Don Wetzel's wife, a commercial artist who created the unit's sketches, suggested they go at the front to make it look nicer. This change would also help keep the car from jumping the tracks. The RDC's usual Detroit diesel engines had been disengaged, but kept intact to provide braking and electricity. The front and back were also streamlined to cut down on wind resistance. The interior had over 50 devices to measure speed, temperature, and rail vibrations. A support pylon holding the jet engines also ran through the interior to prevent them from tearing the car apart. It rolled out of the Collinwood shops in Cleveland, Ohio in July 1966, earning the nickname Black Beetle by the press. Wetzel did not like this name very much. Basic performance tests were then undertaken, with a Twin Beach aircraft following it to monitor the car. Wetzel was confident the RDC could reach around 300 miles per hour, but Perlman told him to keep it below 200 for safety purposes. After basic tests were completed, a 70-mile stretch of straight, well-maintained track between Butler, Indiana and Toledo, Ohio was chosen for official speed tests. Timing traps were set up along the route to measure speed. The section was resurfaced in anticipation of the tests, and all the railroad crossings along the way were blocked off for safety. The first run took place on July 23rd, running 21 miles from Butler, Indiana to Stryker, Ohio. Don Wetzel piloted the RDC, given he was once a pilot in the military. 3 other people monitored the instruments, while Alfred Perlman sat up front with Wetzel. A Beechcraft Model 18D plane followed the RDC on its runs. A GP-7 would tow it back to Butler. It was on the second run that the Black Beetle made history. After accelerating east, about 16 miles into its run outside Bryan, Ohio, a speed of 183.85 miles per hour was recorded. This broke a new speed record for railroad locomotives in America, a record that still stands to this day. Wetzel later remarked that he had been slowing down when the speed was recorded, and that he had actually hit 196 miles per hour. It was also noted he blew the horn throughout most of the run. After this test, Perlman hosted a modest celebration with sandwiches and refreshments. 2 more runs took place the next day on the 24th, but only reached speeds of 90 to 144 miles per hour due to a starter failing on one of the jet engines. Overall, the tests were deemed successful. The RDC was sent to New York City for a special press conference on July 26th and placed on display at 60th Street Yard in western Manhattan. After all was said and done, the RDC still had a job to do. Its streamlining and jet engines were removed, and it returned to commuter service on the Hudson Division. After the New York Central and Pennsylvania Railroad merger in February 1968, the RDC was renumbered to 97 and then 98 on Penn Central. Conrail took Penn Central's place in April 1976, and the RDC was finally retired in 1977. In 1983, it came under the ownership of New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority and was eventually unceremoniously scrapped in 1984. Meanwhile, the jet engines had been repurposed for an experimental railroad snowblower. Retrospectively, the New York Central's jet train proved high-speed service was possible in conventional trackage. Important wheel-to-rail stress interaction data was collected, but all of this kind of amounted to nothing much in the end. The federal government wasn't interested in funding anything else, as they were already involved with the high-speed Bud Metroliner and UAC turbo train projects. However, the Soviet Union would try a similar jet train concept in 1970. They used an ER-22 railcar motor, and it kinda looks similar to the RDC. It too did not amount to anything. The New York Central's jet train was successful, yes, but also impractical. Ballast and other debris were kicked up from the jet exhaust, creating a safety hazard. The engines were also inefficient at low speeds and quite loud. During test runs, nearby residents thought a jet plane was flying by at low altitude. Perlman had stated the railroad was not looking to build a fleet of jet-powered trains, but rather see if conventional rail equipment could operate at high speeds on conventional infrastructure. The Metroliner project further kickstarted this idea, leading to more modern developments. Amtrak's Northeast Corridor hosts numerous high-speed trains upwards of 150 miles per hour, and other state corridor routes feature speeds of 110 miles per hour. As for Don Wetzel, he went on to work for the Norfolk and Western Railway until forming his own engineering company in 1970. He later passed away on November 26, 2019, at age 88. Today, the route of the jet train is operated by Norfolk Southern as their busy Chicago line, and Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited and Capital Limited serve numerous cities along the route. A commemorative plaque for the RDC speed record resides in Bryan, Ohio, cementing its unique place in railroad history.